That means sometimes you can battle in your finances because of how good you're giving. And demons want you to quit giving. But you know it is through my giving that I'm going to be made free. Some of you battling, but you're continuing to pray. You're continuing to ask. Because he said, ask and it shall be given. He said, seek and you'll find. He said, knock and it shall be open. Job began to go through a horrendous trial, pain, and hurt on a level that many of us cannot even imagine. One bad report after another. Have you ever been like I have been, to where you're not only experiencing one painful thing, but I need to preach to somebody that's going through multiple things. I gotta preach to somebody that it feels like every time you come out of one trial, you're stepping into another trial. It seems like you battle to get out of one thing only to be thrown into something else. Oh, you didn't hear me. I didn't say it's something you're choosing to walk into. I said it's as if you come out of one thing and God throws you into something else. And you got to learn how to deal with trouble when it continues to come back to back to back to back. Oh, can I preach this thing? See, that's the problem with church folk. We don't mind getting the blessing back to back to back to back. But can you handle the adversity when it comes back to back to back? Because when God is blessing you back to back, he's setting you up in order that you might handle adversity when it comes back to. Have you ever noticed how when you first get saved, it's like God just blesses you, blesses you, blesses you, blesses you. Seem like when you pray, he say, here I am. Seem like when you say, God, I need, he say, there it is. Oh, somebody know what I'm talking about. But then as you begin to walk with him, as you begin to mature with him, he will allow you to pray and he won't even answer you. He'll allow you to give, but won't let you see nothing. Got him. Job received suffering and pain, one thing after another. But in verse 20, the Bible said, after having received news that would have caused many of us to just quit, the Bible says Job arose. Job got up. Tell your neighbor, I know you're going through something this morning, but it's time to get up. Tell your neighbor, you've been down long enough. Tell somebody you cried about it long enough. You tried to fix it long enough. Now it's time to get up. Now it's time to arise. Now it's time to be about the Father's bit. Now it's time to put God first. Now it's time to learn to trust God and not man. Now it's time for you to arise. The Bible said he arose, tore his robe as a sign of grief, shaved his head as a sign of mourning. Evident that he felt it. He felt the pain. He tore the robe. Sometimes you're trusting God, but pastor, this is hurting on a level that I never hurt before. See, so through Job we learn that there are times that you got to trust God when it looked bad, but you done all you could do. I did everything that I knew to do, pastor, and it didn't turn out right. I did everything that you preached about, but it didn't get get better, Pastor. Pastor, I fasted, but I didn't get relief. I stayed up all night giving God the praise, but my trouble continued to seemingly get worse. Pastor, what do I do when I do all I can, but it keeps getting worse? Pastor, what do you do? At what limit do you give up? At what limit do you quit? At what limit do you say maybe God don't want to do it? You don't ever give up. You don't ever quit. You don't ever doubt God. You do what Job did. You get up and you worship. Good God, tell somebody, I feel it in the house. It's time to worship. Going through, but it's time to worship. Going through, but it's time to praise. Job fell to the ground and worshiped God. And the scripture said, in all this, somebody shout, in all this, Job, watch this, did not sin. See, suffering is not an excuse for you to sin. Suffering is not an excuse for you to go do wrong. I know it's hurting, but that's not an excuse to drink. I know it's painful, but that's not an excuse to hook up with somebody that you ain't got no business hooking up with. I know the finances are tight, but it's not an excuse to rob God. I know you're battling, but that's not an excuse to skip church. You need staying power. Have you ever gone through something so painful that it made you want to talk about God? Yeah, I'm talking about you, the one that led the prayer, but now you're on the verge of bad mouthing God. I'm talking about the one that led the praise service, that had everybody shouting and worshiping, but now you're going through something and you're on the verge of saying something negative about God. This is the reason the psalmist had to make a choice, because in the midst of suffering, you and I have a decision to make. We can bless him at all times, or we can begin to be hypocritical and badmouth him because of what we're experiencing. What are you saying, Pastor? When you're battling something hard, you have to learn how to get a check of your feelings. You have to learn how to put your feelings in check. Somebody know what I'm talking about. That's part of growing up. Paul said, when I was a child, I thought as a child. I understood as a child. I spoke as a child. But when I became a man, Paul said, I put away childish things. See, children love to get all wrapped up and tied up in how they're feeling. See, a child will get mad just because they feel like getting mad. See, a child will cry just because they feel like crying. See, a child will think that tears help every situation. See, a child will think if they pout, they'll get their way. Oh, I'm coming to your house. I'm knocking on your door. I'm sending you a text message right now. I'm sending you a spiritual email. Open it up because it's a blessing for you. When you begin to grow up in the midst of suffering, you actually learn how to put your feelings in check, and you actually learn how not to allow your feeling to dictate to you if you're gonna smile or not. You can't allow my feeling to dictate to me whether or not I'm gonna love folk. I gotta love folk even though I'm going through it. Yeah, it's painful, but that's not an excuse to talk about folk. It ain't an excuse to hate on people because you going through. It ain't an excuse to spit venom and talk about everybody. But you got to learn to put your feelings. Tap people and tell them, check your feelings. Check your feelings. You can't get too tied up in your emotions. And that's the reason David said, I will bless the Lord at all times. Most of us don't mind blessing God. Oh, tell your neighbor, it's that part that when he said at all times. Oh, if it be true, tell your neighbor, that's where I struggle at. Oh, tell your neighbor, if it be real, that's where I fall a little short. Oh, look at somebody and say, I gotta be real this morning. That's where I need you to pray for me. That's why I need you to do some fasting for me. It's when it comes to blessing him at all times. I done learned to bless him when I get my way. I done learned to bless him when I get my blessing. I done learned to bless him when I get my miracle. Can I break it down? I learned to bless him when I get the raise. I learned to bless him when I get the bonus. I learned to bless him when it go the way I want it to go. But the part that I'm having trouble with, Pastor, is blessing him at all times. How do you bless him when it don't go your way? How do you bless him when he made sure it didn't go the way you wanted to go? You got to learn how to do it, child. You got to learn how to do it, brother. You got to learn how to do it, sister. It ain't easy, but when you make up in your mind, ain't a devil or demon that can persuade you. I got to bless him at all. At all. At all. At all. Good times. Bad times. At all. Check this out. I got to learn to bless him when I got a pocket full of money. I got to learn to bless him when my pockets are bulging out. Money running over. Shopping when I want to shop. Bills are all paid up in advance. Paid them up 6 months in advance. Now I'm coming to church tearing up my row. Now I'm coming to church moving chairs out the way. But sister, that ain't your problem. Your problem is blessing him when it don't go good. Your problem is blessing him when ain't nothing in your pocket. When ain't nothing in your pocketbook. That's when